Staten Island sharing to buy myself a mandolin. And I saw the long white dress of love on a storefront mannequin. Big boat chugging back with a belly full of cars, all for something lacy. Some girl's gonna see that dress and crave that day like crazy. Little Indian kids on a bridge up in Canada, they can balance, they can climb like their fathers before them. They'll walk the girders of the Manhattan skyline. Shine your light on me, Miss Liberty, 'cause as soon as this ferry boat docks, I'm headed to the church to play bingo. Please me with a gambler's box.
Scaling buildings high and low. Welcome inside the Parisi Palace, high above 3773 East Broadway. This is a live edition of the Jake Feinberg Show. Coming to you on Power Talk. Thank you so much for making us part of your day today. And I always appreciate and love people that are willing to go outside of their comfort zone and push themselves into territory that they maybe are more insecure in, because ultimately, in my experience as a journalist, as a professional, as a human being, the only way you grow is through adversity. And I get a chance to talk to somebody who is unafraid of unmasking themselves on the bandstand and letting the body dance. And she is a receiver, she is a giver of love to so many people in her live performances and her records. And the real question remains, does she consider herself vulnerable enough to be able to receive love in this time in order to heal and continue her path towards expanded consciousness and the eternal life? Misty Boyce, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Hi, thanks for having me. What an intro, wow.
Can I just ask you about that? I mean, so many creatives and people on the bandstand, they are in demand. People love them. They want them to sing and perform, and they are inspired by them. And you're pouring your heart and soul out on the bandstand, and yet when it comes to receiving love and being able to accept it and not block it away or push it away, sometimes these creatives struggle with that. It's more of a protective shell, and I kind of wanted to know where Misty Boyce fell in that continuum.
Well, that has certainly been an issue for me, and that's very insightful for you to recognize that as kind of our own pandemic in the music and entertainment community. Like, so many of us are kind of drawn to this life in an effort to receive love, and then are like stunted in being able to do so.
Right. Right.
But I in my own journey, I feel like I've turned a corner with that in the last couple of years, and have opened myself up to receiving love from others. Like, have found an exponential life-giving source in that, and feel really sad for my former self that I didn't realize how I was shutting that down. But you can only work with what you know, and at the time I like receiving felt very scary and unsafe, and now I know that it's not, if it's coming from the right places and if you know how to receive it properly with good boundaries.
Absolutely. No, I think it's incredibly well articulated. I mean, were you accepted as a free spirit by your family and by society? And when did you learn that it was about living life by the rules that you put into place and not the rules that society says you should live by?
I don't, no offense to my parents at all, because they're lovely and they did their best and I love them so.
Yes.
But I don't think that they quite got me. So I felt very alone for most of my life. And then, that sent me on the trek to like find my people, which I think what music was for me, just like this longing for a sense of belonging somewhere and community and people who get the alienness of in that feeling. And I think it's a ever changing. I haven't like landed anywhere.
No.
I'm constantly.
It's the forever journey.
It's the forever journey, and like I think the peace that I found in that is some sort of acceptance of the constant trying and the constant seeking, and that's like part of the fun and not work anymore. That's not sad or scary. That's like exciting. I'm glad that I'm never gonna land. Like I can keep flying.
Right. I mean, it's a beautiful way to say it. When did you feel like, a lot of times with creatives and performers, and they get so in sort of tunnel visioned about their creative work, and their ego gets involved with it. And then as a result, receiving love, like we talked about, is just much harder because you're fixated on something that is, even though it can come to life on the bandstand, songs can come on and take a life of their own and be magical, but it's not really involving human beings. And to me, I can get into a longing phase where I'm longing for this or longing for that. And then in my own cultivation, I learned to say, well, wait a minute, Jake, why don't you just back up and be thankful for everything that you have been gifted. And my ego tends to get out of the way, and I just wonder, and this has just been a lifelong battle for so many musicians to control their ego. There's a lot of people there's a lot of older musicians that I've interviewed that tell me about people that they know that are miserable. And these are people that have gold records on their walls and more money than they know what to do with. And they have a 3-car garage. I mean, they have all the material things that society says consider you to be successful. But yet they're miserable because the phone has stopped ringing for sessions. And here's the crux of it, is that they're upset because they have long believed, mistakenly, that they were fully responsible for what was coming out of their apparatus, when in fact it was merely they were partially responsible, but they are merely conduits for the music coming through them from the heavens. And I wonder if where you're at in that evolution, because to me, when did you start to learn? Was there a definitive moment? Was there a point you could think about that comes to mind when you really just started to get out of your own way?
Well, I don't know if there was like an exact moment. Again, that's something that's kind of always, I'm kind of always chipping away at my ego and finding new layers of it and trying to let it die, little by little. I definitely find myself in a moment where I'm really grappling with that now with the coronavirus. I worked really hard to be successful at this, and then have found myself successful, and then just overnight that success outwardly has been taken away. Like my income has been taken away. There's no tours on the books, and there's no end in sight. And then all of a sudden, I'm not a different person, and I don't have any different skills. I still am a skilled musician, but I don't have anything to show for that in an outward way. And so here I am, just left with myself. And am I at peace with who I am if I don't have anything to show for it? And that is a scary place to be. But thankfully, and don't get me wrong, like I spent a whole week, last week grieving that, like heavily and crying a lot. But thankfully, like the last 2 years, I've found a, like a meditation practice that has really helped me just like slowly chip away at getting okay with who I am at the fundamental level, like just being a soul on this planet. And I have a okay foundation at that now. Not enough that it's like I can, I'm getting through this easily, because I'm definitely not. It's a lot of work. But I feel like I have the tools to sort of understand what's happening. Like, oh, look at how much identity I'm still wrapping up in being a successful musician. Like, that was never mine to begin with. Like, I did work at it. I can own how much I worked. I can own how much I love it. But what happens with it is totally out of my control. And every day that I get to do it, I should be grateful. I think I had lost sight of what a dream I was living before this.
Yeah, I just got on the phone with. Do you know who Lauren Barth is?
No, I don't.
She's a very eclectic, wonderful singer from I think San Luis Obispo, but she's down in LA now, and she just said that in theory she felt like collectively that the music community sort of been knocked off their high horse. Not like you were riding into town and making huge amounts of money. That doesn't exist in. Nobody's really getting ahead in music today unless you're just some big name act from 40 years ago that the baby boomers can drop $150 on a ticket.
Right. Yeah.
But
it's a modest living, but it's a living.
Oh, absolutely. No, listen, I respect, and I just want you to talk a little bit about, in your yogic practice, as you continue along to cultivate it, how you drop from your head to your heart to your primordial gut to find that silence and that space and that peace. And I recognize it's still evolving, but that's what my whole show has been dedicated to, even though I gave you these sort of platitudes of themes and things like that. I mean, the truth of the matter is, all I want to do is drop to my soul. And I want you to talk about how that yogic practice has allowed you to do that, and the peace that you feel afterwards.
Well, so in the last couple of years, I found Vipassana meditation, which technically, I think I'll do my best to describe it, but it's basically a body scan in which you are trying to become aware of the level of sensation on every inch of your skin, with no corner left unturned. And that is really difficult. It was really difficult the very first time I learned the practice, because I realized how detached from my body I was. And I think that's really common,
right.
Especially like everybody. But no, I'm just going to leave it at that. I think that's really common for everybody. Like we're so in our heads, and we're so disconnected from our bodies. And so when this practice asked me to feel the skin of my stomach, I was like, I've had a meltdown because I'd never been there before. So the practice has been a very slow, methodical unveiling of, or like a reconnecting with my body on a cellular level and very intimately. And that's been like a wild journey. But the closer I get to it, and the more sensations I become friends with, and the more parts of my body that I become friends with, I'm so much more in touch with how things are affecting me, where things are coming from. Like if an emotion that I'm feeling might be coming from the person that I'm talking to and not necessarily from myself, I can start to tell that difference. And it's not a sexy process. It's kind of, it's getting your hands in the weeds every day of like your own skin.
I dig. I mean, I also just want to let you know, I think you just came up with a new song, title anyway. It's called Becoming Friends with Parts of My Body. Or just Becoming Friends.
Yeah.
I think that that most people look at meditation and they think that, it should be you should be accessing some state of peace or bliss. But in actuality, when there is, when there's conflict within those things, trying to feel the skin of your stomach or trying to feel parts of your, that doesn't make it a bad meditation sit. That is just you trying to grow and wrestle with it. And it just shows that you are continuing to open your, to open your soul to and trying to find more peace, And I just wonder about, as far as music is concerned, do you find that that you play the type of music that you never play the same song the same way once, and because of that improvisational attitude, you leave your physical body?
I never leave my body playing music, because there's so much that's grounding you into the physical. There's so much physicality to singing. There's so much physicality to playing. If anything, I'm trying to stay in my body more. And the more I stay in my body, I feel like the more I can transmit other people to, like, I can allow other people to escape through it. Does that make sense? Like,
absolutely. I just think sometimes, like, the best way to get out of your head is when you're, I guess more to the point, do you find security in having very predictable formulaic set lists, or do you how are you trying to grow as a musician? Are you trying to stretch out more? Because to me, the way to stretch out more and get out of your headspace is when you're playing music that's not on the page and that's really just coming through you. And obviously being with musicians that have that same kind of vocabulary. I see a lot of cats today who, they perform a set and they're very secure with playing the same song the same way all the time. And, and they have like an 8-bar guitar solo and then they wrap it up. And it's like these like radio friendly hits. And I'm always somebody who just wants people to be fearless and just dive right into the deep end, and maybe they flub a note, or maybe they make mistakes, or maybe it goes off the rails, but in actuality, those mistakes are gateways for new music to occur. And I just wonder truthfully, where you're at. I haven't seen you perform live, but I just wonder where you're at comfortability-wise as it relates to you stretching out and improvising.
Well, I personally, like, with my music, I agree with you. I so get off on on not knowing what's going to happen next, and sometimes to a fault, like where I won't practice enough because I kind of like the feeling of like not being super sure of what's going to happen.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong with that.
As an audience member, I kind of dig that too when I feel like someone's on the edge and then you see them land it, or even not, but I've had to play, or I haven't had to, but I've had the opportunity to play in bands where people are on the opposite spectrum, where they like everything to be really programmed and we're playing the same song the same way every night. And I've found like a certain amount of live performance is like a river. It's never the same. Even if you're playing the same notes the same way, each night is different. Your vibe is different. You're playing to a different audience. They're bringing in a different kind of energy. Like, it's always different out of performance. And now sort of land on both. Like, I practice a lot more than I used to, and show up prepared for my shows more than I used to. And then because of that, I feel like when I do kind of take a risk, or I'm taking a solo, or like kind of go out, like, it's so much more grounded and therefore more exciting. So I like both now. I
mean, before we got turned into the Twilight Zone, what kind of people do you surround yourself with in a band context? I mean, is it primarily? If I went to go see you play, would I get one tune straight for 45 minutes? Would I get a package of 10 singer-songwriter tunes? Where is the Misty Boyce? Where are you marinating at on the bandstand in terms of a set list?
It's pretty varied. Like, there are some songs that are just, here's the song, and it's 3 minutes and 55 seconds. And then there are some that we stretch out on, and I'll play a jazz solo, or my guitar player will kind of go off into the stratosphere. But it's kind of changing. This new record has a lot more instrumental moments like that. I'm kind of bringing more of my nerdy jazz proggy self.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait. Hold on. Wait. There is nothing nerdy about that at all. I don't know what you're talking about. That's like where the rubber meets the road for Jake Feinberg. Are you a street scholar, or did you come through the academy?
I come via both.
Well, no, did you learn music by ear or by vision first?
First by ear, but then I did learn how to.
No, sure, no. But what I'm saying is the fact that you learned by ear. You didn't learn the crisis that we have today in jazz, whatever that word means to you. Is the fact that there's a homogenization of sound, meaning you can't really tell outside of a couple peeps. It's really hard to tell who modern jazz players are, because a lot of them are coming out of the academy and they are comping their professors or relentlessly trying to pursue these assignments where you have to transcribe Charlie Parker solos in different keys, and then you wind up you have no opportunity to sound like yourself. And if you go back to the mid 60s, most of the cast that I interview outside of North Texas State and Berkeley, there was no jazz school. So it was a street music, and it was mixed with the blues, and you had to learn by ear, and your ears were totally unlocked. But when you learn how to sight read first, then you lose the ability for any kind of real ear training. So, even when you were younger, can you talk a little bit about where your ears really grew the most?
Yeah, I learned how to play the piano I was pretending I could read, but really I would just make my teacher play the piece for me, and then I'd learn it by repeating what they did. And I got away with that until I was about 8. And then I started playing hard enough stuff that I couldn't do that anymore. And the teacher was like, "Oh, you don't know what you're doing."
Yeah, right. Which is the best place to be.
And then she forced me to she refused to play things for me anymore. So I had to learn how to read. But then I do think that those first 2 or 3 years that I was functioning that way, once I got into jazz, I was like, oh, I can do this. This is what I used to do.
Wow.
Just listen and then repeat what's being said to me or react to what's being said to me. And then actually in the study of jazz, I feel like I got away from listening in a weird way. Just listening to my own self. Like you said, I think I spent my jazz school years just trying to sound like what my teacher wanted me to sound like and study the people my teacher wanted me to study. And I'm a people pleaser, so I want to be good and make them happy. So I did that, and then it's honestly only been in the last 6 months where I sit down and I practice and I just listen to myself. I listen to where my ear wants to go, and I'm not trying to do any vocabulary. I'm just trying to play the melodies or the shapes that my songwriting, and I'm somehow starting to merge the two worlds together, and that's been really fun.
Are you hip to the where did you go to music school?
I went to the Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music.
Holy cow, that is an ancient, timeless bastion of music there. I just wonder were there it was very possible years ago to go to school and then still have gigs, meaning you got paid for gigs, even though you weren't in, outside of your schooling, you were able to play on the bandstand at the Jazz Workshop or any of the bars or clubs in Cincinnati. And, I just wonder, for you, did you have opportunities then to get comfortable on the bandstand there outside of trying to get through the courses, please your professors, the things you were talking about? The problem is now we have a supply and demand issue. So many musicians being cranked out of these assembly lines at the university level and nowhere to play. And not even nowhere to play, just nowhere to make a living. The pizza parlor gigs that used to be around are gone. The radio registry, chances are Misty Boyce, in the 1970s, you'd be getting calls 4 times a week to do jingles and cartoons and studio sessions and movie soundtracks. And people were in music. Here's the bottom line. Setting aside the coronavirus, do you believe that our society in the West still views a musician as a profession, or is music a musician's gift to the world?
Man, that's a big question. I'm going to start with the first question. So when I went to college in Cincinnati, I feel really lucky because I think I was maybe the last of the generation that, and I was in the right town. Like Cincinnati oddly had like a really thriving jazz scene when I was there. And there were a lot of gigs. Like I made my living through college playing gigs, and I got tons of experience and really made more money than I did in my adult life until maybe like 5 years ago.
Well, good for you. Good for you. That's amazing. Making money.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. It was kind of a heyday. And then when I went to New York, I was like, oh yeah, there's no gigs at all. There's like so many musicians and no gigs and no money. And it was clear to me then that I wasn't going to be like a professional jazz musician. I wanted to play pop music and write my own songs. So I was kind of getting out of that world anyway, but at least, I did get a lot of experience playing in Cincinnati.
What were the cool supper clubs and jazz clubs down there?
Oh man, D. Felice was a great restaurant.
Do we have video? Do we have video of you playing Lydian scales or abstract jazz? That's what I want to hear.
Oh my god!
Yeah, this is why it's so beautiful to discover this stuff. I'm like this. I had no idea how deep a bag you had, music wise. It's unbelievable.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't think that too many people were video. This was in the mid-aughts. So we weren't there weren't a lot of smartphones. There weren't any smartphones.
This was like 05, like the mid part of the first decade of the 21st century. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I was in college from 2002 to 2006 and playing like a lot. Yeah, probably.
I would have been bringing in one of those huge VHS recorders to tape you guys. That's so there wasn't any iPhones. So, but what more than anything else, what are some of the things that you learned at that time, experientially as a leader, that you carry over to today, in your own different groups and musical collaborations?
I don't.
I'm going to tell you one thing right now. I'm not sure if you use this, but when I interviewed this pianist Mark Copeland, who played a lot with Gary Peacock, and I'm still trying to get a hold of Gary Peacock. Do you know who Gary Peacock is? Do you know who Gary Peacock is?
Yeah, the bass player.
Yeah, exactly. So he lives in a monastic temple in upstate New York, and I've just been unable to get a hold of him. But I've interviewed Steve Swallow a lot, and Mark Copeland was a. I got to send you some of these interviews because I had no idea what ahead you were. But the Copeland would say that him and or maybe it was Paul Bley and Peacock would be playing at the Village Vanguard with Paul Motian and the Espresso Machines.
Wow, yeah.
the espresso machines would be cranking and glasses tinkering and utensils hitting the table and people just in their own social, bubble. And it was always, Gary Peacock said, you know what you do when the audience is getting too loud. You play softer.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if it's those kinds of techniques, because to me, music is a spiritual experience. It is an out-of-body experience.
Yeah.
It's descarga. It's breaking open the skull. It is not, I just let the body dance in all types of musical settings. And so, just what are some of the tricks you've learned, maybe that you learned at that time, that you've been able to carry over in order to get the audience to lock in on Misty Boyce?
I don't know if I learned these techniques then, because I was just playing piano in college, and I feel like once I started singing, there was a whole other skill set that you needed in order to sing live in front of an audience, and so I was totally out of my gourd with that for many years. And to be honest, I feel like my maybe yogic and meditation and spiritual practices have helped me more with live performance than live performance itself in a lot of ways. I mean, just having the experience is helpful, and having many types of experiences, playing to rowdy audiences, playing to no audience, playing to adoring audience, as many experiences as you can have are going to teach you. But as far as just some technical techniques to ground on stage in order to keep somebody interested, or even to keep myself interested, because sometimes if I feel like I've lost an audience, I will totally implode on myself, and then
okay.
and
No,
then,
but listen, your honesty is so beautiful to hear this. But through your yogic practices, have you been able to refocus and not fall apart? First of all, it's okay to fall apart on the bandstand. Let me be clear about that. But to be less affected by the environment per se, and focus on channeling your own life force, has your yogic practices helped you with that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing has been this huge, when I understood that my ego was getting in the way of performance because I was so concerned about what people thought of me.
Sure.
As soon as I let go of what people might be thinking of me when I'm on stage, and instead just focus on what I'm actually doing, I'm singing and I love to sing. What does that feel like? I'm playing music and I love to play. Can I get into the way that the instrument feels under my fingers, or that the way the guitar is vibrating on my body? Can I get into these very simple tactile sensations and things that I do all day alone at home, and then just do it in front of people? And there's no difference. I love it as much at home as I should on stage. The only difference is that now I'm thinking about what other people are thinking about me, and that's totally getting in the way of me enjoying this thing that I love. And people love watching people love what they do. So when I'm loving what I'm doing, people are into it, and it's unequivocal, and it's heart exploding.
I am just overwhelmed. I mean, you blew me away today. I mean, can we do? I have another interview. I got 3 interviews right now, but can we do?
Okay.
Part 2 this week? I mean, obviously we have nothing but time these days,
Yeah.
and I didn't realize what ahead you were, but yeah, we're gonna have to go deeper if that's possible.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Well, it was just delightful to hear you, and the sun is shining everywhere, and just stay on the righteous path, and you're going to be fine. And but the one thing I will tell you is that we're going to be in this sort of pattern for quite some time, and I just think it's important that you can in this time find as much opportunity to get stuff out of your system creatively as you can. I know that I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here, but I just find it to be a situation where you need to continue to explode hearts and do it in a way Basically create something out of nothing. That's what the Jake Feinberg show is. It was 9 years ago. It was created out of nothing, and my first book was birthed last year, and I would be humbled and honored for you to read it, because it'll blow your mind away. The entire thing is about soul, salvation, love, and overcoming adversity. But there was nothing there at the beginning. And we're kind of in this place now where you have some tools, you have some Play-Doh, you have some pianos, you have some of this, and now you have to make stuff up out of nothing, because it's going to be like this for, unfortunately, quite some time.
Yeah, well, here we go.
Blast off, Misty. It's so good to hear you. I'll reach out. We'll get something done maybe towards the end of the week. We'll knock out a part 2.
Great. I look forward to it. So nice to talk to you.
Yeah, it's an honor, Misty. Thank you so much for going there with me.
Yeah, of course.
All right.
Bye, Jake.
Be cool, Misty. Bye. Round 2 in the books. We will be back with Monica Tarboda Griffith right after this.
Poker, but I'm a fool when love's at stake. 'Cause I can't conceal emotion, wild I'm feeling's always on my face. There's a gypsy down on Bleecker Street. I went in to see her as a kind of joke. She lit a candle for my love luck, and $18 went up in smoke. Sharon, I left my man at a North Dakota junction, and I came out to the Big Apple here to face the dream's malfunction. Love's a repetitious danger. You think I'd be accustomed to? Well, I do accept the changes better than I used to do. A woman I knew just drowned herself. The well was deep and muddy. She was just shaking off futility or punishing somebody. Friends called her up all day yesterday. All emotions and abstractions. Seems we all live so close to that line and so far from satisfaction. Doris says have children. Mama and Betsy say find a charity. Help the needy and the crippled, or put some time into ecology. Well, there's a wide, wide world of noble causes and lovely landscapes to discover, but all I really want to do is find another lover. When we were kids in Maidstone, Sharon, I went to every wedding in the town to see the tears and the kisses and the pretty lady in the white lace gown. And walking home on the railroad tracks, or swinging on the playground swing, love stimulated my illusions more than anything. And when I went skating after Golden Reggie, that was white lace, I was chasing dreams. Mommy's nylons underneath my jeans. He showed me first you get the kisses, then you have to have the tears. The ceremony of the bells and lace still veils this reckless fool here. There are 29 skaters spiders on almond ring, circling in singles and in pairs. In this vigorous anonymity, a blank face at the window stares and stares and stares. And the powers of reason and the flowers of deep feelings seem to serve me only to deceive me. Sharon, you got a husband and a family and a farm. I got the apple of temptation and a diamond snake around my arm. But you still have your music, I've still got my